Don Quixote arrived at the inn badly injured, slung helplessly across Sancho's donkey. To Sancho, it was clearly just an inn, but to Don Quixote it appeared as a noble castle once again. The innkeeper, seeing Don Quixote's condition, asked what had happened. Sancho quickly replied that his master had fallen from a rock and bruised his ribs. The innkeeper's wife, unlike many of her profession, was kind and compassionate. She immediately decided to help the wounded guest and ordered her young daughter to assist her. Together, they carefully carried Don Quixote upstairs to a small garret that once served as a straw loft. The room was crude and uncomfortable, but it was the best the inn could offer. Nearby, a mule driver already slept on his pack saddles, enjoying a far better bed than the knight would receive. The bed prepared for Don Quixote was one of the worst imaginable. It consisted of rough wooden boards placed unevenly on trestles, topped with a thin mattress filled with hard pellets that felt like stones. The sheets were stiff and leathery, and the coverlet was so thin that every thread could be counted. Sancho, meanwhile, was given little more than a straw mat and a blanket. Despite the discomfort, the innkeeper's wife and daughter gently tended Don Quixote's wounds, applying plasters from head to foot. Maritornes, the Asturian serving woman, held a lamp while they worked. As the hostess examined the bruises, she remarked that the injuries looked more like the result of blows than a fall. Sancho quickly insisted that the rock had many sharp edges, each leaving its own mark. While Don Quixote lay quietly, Sancho began complaining about his own pain. He claimed that, although he had not fallen, the shock of seeing his master fall had caused his entire body to ache as if he had been beaten 1,000 times. The innkeeper's daughter mentioned that she once dreamed of falling and woke up feeling sore, but Sancho replied that he was fully awake when his pain began. Maritornes asked the name of the injured gentleman, and Sancho proudly announced that he was Don Quixote of La Mancha, a famous knight-errant. When Maritornes asked what a knight-errant was, Sancho explained in his simple way that a knight-errant is someone who can be beaten one day and become an emperor the next. The hostess wondered why Sancho, serving such a noble knight, did not yet possess lands or titles. Sancho replied that it was still too early, as they had only been seeking adventures for a month. He remained confident that great rewards would come once Don Quixote recovered. Don Quixote, listening closely, struggled to sit up and thanked the hostess with grand and flowery words. He praised her kindness and declared that he would remember her generosity forever. He even hinted that if his heart were not already bound to Lady Dulcinea, he might have fallen in love with the innkeeper's daughter. The women understood little of his speech, but sensed it was meant kindly, and politely thanked him before leaving. After the women left, Maritornes stayed behind to tend Sancho. Unknown to Don Quixote, she had promised the mule driver that she would meet him later that night when the inn was quiet. She took pride in always keeping her promises, no matter how or where they were made. The room was crowded, with Don Quixote's bed in the center, Sancho's mat beside it, and the mule driver resting close by on his saddles. Once night fell, silence filled the inn. The lantern in the hallway cast faint light, and both Sancho and Don Quixote lay awake in pain. In the silence, Don Quixote's imagination began to run wild. Influenced by the chivalric tales he loved, he convinced himself that the inn was truly a castle. He imagined the innkeeper's daughter as a noble princess who had fallen in love with him and planned to visit him secretly that night. As these thoughts grew stronger, Don Quixote felt anxious about the test his virtue would soon face. He swore to remain faithful to Dulcinea del Toboso, even if the most beautiful women of legend appeared before him. He resolved that no temptation would cause him to betray his devotion. At the same time, Maritornes quietly entered the room, barefoot and cautious, searching for the mule driver. As she stepped inside, Don Quixote noticed her shadow and believed his fantasy had come true. Despite his injuries, he sat up and stretched out his arms to welcome the lady he believed had come for him. Maritornes bent forward and, feeling her way through the dark, accidentally walked straight into his arms. Don Quixote seized her wrist and pulled her toward him, making her sit on the bed. She was too frightened and confused to speak. To Don Quixote, everything about Maritornes seemed transformed by illusion. Her rough clothing felt like fine silk, her glass beads like precious pearls, and her coarse hair like strands of golden treasure. Even her unpleasant breath seemed fragrant to him. His imagination painted her as a noble princess visiting a wounded knight. He spoke tenderly, thanking her, but explaining that his loyalty to Dulcinea prevented him from returning her affection. Maritornes, meanwhile, struggled silently to escape his grip, not understanding a word he said. The mule driver, who had been waiting for Maritornes, heard everything and grew jealous. Seeing her apparently held by another man, he rushed forward in anger. Without warning, he struck Don Quixote hard in the face, drawing blood, and then jumped on his ribs, trampling him mercilessly. The weak bed collapsed under the weight, crashing loudly to the floor. The noise woke the innkeeper, who immediately suspected Maritornes of causing trouble. He grabbed a lamp and hurried toward the room. Seeing the innkeeper approaching, Maritornes panicked and leapt onto Sancho's bed, curling up beside him. Sancho woke suddenly, feeling a heavy weight on him, and thought he was having a nightmare. He began swinging his fists wildly, hitting Maritornes. She fought back fiercely, and soon the two were wrestling noisily. The mule driver rushed to help Maritornes, while the innkeeper entered the room shouting accusations. In moments, everyone was fighting everyone else in complete confusion. The mule driver, who had been waiting for Maritornes, heard everything and grew jealous. Seeing her apparently held by another man, he rushed forward in anger. Without warning, he struck Don Quixote hard in the face, drawing blood, and then jumped on his ribs, trampling him mercilessly. The weak bed collapsed under the weight, crashing loudly to the floor. The noise woke the innkeeper, who immediately suspected Maritornes of causing trouble. He grabbed a lamp and hurried toward the room. Seeing the innkeeper approaching, Maritornes panicked and leapt onto Sancho's bed, curling up beside him. Sancho woke suddenly, feeling a heavy weight on him, and thought he was having a nightmare. He began swinging his fists wildly, hitting Maritornes. She fought back fiercely, and soon the two were wrestling noisily. The mule driver rushed to help Maritornes, while the innkeeper entered the room shouting accusations. In moments, everyone was fighting everyone else in complete confusion. Unable to find a lantern because the innkeeper had put it out, the constable struggled through the darkness until he finally managed to light a lamp from the hearth. The room was left in ruins, with broken furniture, injured bodies, and complete disorder. Don Quixote lay battered and bleeding, while Sancho groaned beside him, both victims of misunderstanding and madness. Thus ended one of the most ridiculous and painful nights of Don Quixote's adventures. His belief that the inn was a castle and that noble ladies surrounded him had led only to humiliation and suffering. Once again, his fantasies clashed violently with reality, leaving him bruised in body but unchanged in spirit, ready, once healed, to pursue his delusions of chivalry further.